Hi there, I am Visualistic Mind and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you what I did in my first year as a graphic design student. I'm currently a third year graphic design student finishing up in March. Then I'm going to get my diploma and head out there and just see what the world has to offer. But now let's just fall straight into what I did a few years back. Take note, it is the start of graphic design for me. So if you want to comment, you can. Please tell me what you think of the work I did. But what I want you to realize is to see the growth process. And so let's start off with my front cover for my portfolio. It's hard copy for a reason. As a first year, I was more into the hard copy than the digital aspect. I started learning how to use the programs, Adobe software with Illustrator, and then go into Photoshop and using my illustrative styles. I am an artist at heart. As you can see with my own t-shirt I designed and printed this year that passed. So you're going to see a lot of illustration, especially in my first year. Alright, let's go for it. Now, if we go into the graphic design field itself with comm design, communication design, and if you know what that is, focusing more on the digital aspects. I hope you like space because you're going to see a lot of it. Everything for me about space is amazing. The opportunity is so vast. So as an artist, you might see it in my paintings and you might see it in my design work as well. This was one of our first letterheads that we actually did. So I decided there is a frog in my soup. In my bath. Sorry. Alright, so looking at my first letterhead I did, the theme was there's a frog in my bath, and Sir said, my professor at the time, who's awesome, he told me that we can use any kind of illustrative route. You can look towards putting a frog literally into a bath or actually illustrating it, and so I went more of a Photoshop route with the Adobe software and also illustrated the smallest little froggy on the plug of a bath. So I wanted to go the cute route. I was still getting into my typography. In my first year, I wasn't so good with my typography. And over the years, I've grown. So be easy on yourself. If you're a new graphic designer and you feel like an amateur, just like I did, you do grow. There is always opportunity out there. And if we carry on, now this is something that I wasn't so fond of, but I tried it. This was for a tube design. And so wanted the illustration to eventually be put onto a t-shirt design as well. So this is when I got into printing in my first year. So as you can see, I've got my tiger. I just illustrated him. This t-shirt's quite small, but I just illustrated him, and I wasn't really that knowledgeable about print on t-shirts and merchandise. So when it came to the laser cutting or having the print cut onto the fabric, I didn't understand that detail would be lost. And at that time, it's something you need to learn. So from all of this, you're going to learn there are things you need to look forward to and be observant about, especially with print. The darker your design is, the darker it will print out. And that's one thing I wasn't so fond of, because you can make so many mistakes when it comes to finishing. Okay, so this is currently one of my first double spread magazine designs. I wasn't really used to double spread at the time, but I tried my best incorporating photography, which was one of my subjects, and then also trying to play around with the typography. And it took a while to still get used to it, understanding that you have to have medium to large text, and as a designer you need to really focus on those aspects when it comes to composition and come to the elements that you put onto a art board. And here is a jean ad I did, taking photos of some models that I had posed for me concerning the jeans that they were wearing the day, and just focusing on the implementation of photography with design. Now this is when I started understanding the element structure, having a larger element with your logo, and then formulating little elements into the picture or into the artboard. So it takes a while, and I might not be the perfect designer out there, but this is how I started seeing I'm growing towards something better. Now, if you're into logos and enjoy just taking a normal letter and slowly cutting off pieces in order to formulate a logo, it's one direction you can go if you want a typographical or a very simple logo. I needed to understand what logos truly were when I started becoming more introduced to it, and eventually I did get to a point of doing that illustrative kind of iconic logo style. I saw that I was more into that than just having a name or just having your business typography showing. So it's really up to you, whichever direction you feel. If you enjoy doing logos like this, go ahead and explore it. I recommend take a letter and explore what it will look like if you cut certain aspects off of that letter to form your own logo. So that was just the start, and I also had to just place it onto other Photoshop it onto my mock-ups. But these weren't mock-ups, so in my first year they didn't want us to become lazy. I was a bit upset that we could use mock-ups in our second year until I knew what a mock-up was. But yeah, we had to place it on using our Adobe Photoshop, using any kind of distorting tools in Illustrator, and learn and struggle desperately to get it on and to make it look like it's actually on the building itself. So as I told you, print was very important. Me learning how to dictate what color to use, and especially focus on using the color Bible, guys. CMYK colors, you need to focus on that when it comes to printing. But I'll say don't cheat before you go towards a mock-up. Place it on by hand using a tool in Illustrator or using a tool in Photoshop than actually downloading a mock-up and putting it on. You need to learn from scratch how to do it self instead of just cheating and getting a mock-up. Now, when we look at my photographic components, I've got much better photography images I've taken recently. My first year there were a lot of cell phone pics, and that was one assignment we did, focusing on the bird's eye view. As you can see, having just photo images going into a liquor store. A shame it's pandemic, so no alcohol, South Africa. And just focusing on smaller details, focusing on cracks. It's just one of the few photo aspects that I explored. I'm not so fond of photography. I wasn't so fond of it in my first year, but I've grown to like it eventually. Yeah, more when I focused on the patterns, taking some photos at campus and some light photos. But yeah, let's move on. And then you saw already the one photo in my magazine, double spread, and then the ocean. I truly love the ocean, it's so peaceful. But yeah, I'm not going to speak so much about photography. I'll touch on that on a later basis. But for now, I want you to see something that I really enjoy, and that's illustration. This is gouache. If you can paint, if you understand paint and you know there's water paint, then you know there is acrylic. Now there's gouache. Gouache is like the baby of water paint and acrylic. It's weird when people ask me what is gouache, and I'm like, well, it's just the baby of those two mediums. It's such a flat type of medium to work with. You have to be so neat. And my lecturer at the time, she was very serious about being extremely neat. You need to pursue that perfection and be very careful to make the layer too thick. Gouache is such a, I'll say, delicate kind of paint to use compared to oil paint. Oil paint, you can just add paint on there. Once it's dried, but this, it's very it's nerve-wracking to work with, but it's actually enjoyable. So as you can see, it was more of a pop kind of feel. We explored patterns, took shoes. My lecturer once said, take your shoes from home and draw it in class. And so I took one of my shoes, my pairs of shoes, and I duplicated the design, and then I changed it up with different patterns. It was just a good exercise to get into focusing on detail and neatening up your brushwork and so on. And one would not expect to do this in graphic design. People think these days it's only on digital platforms, but it's good to explore this, and it's good to work on hard copy as well. Then I also have now, as you saw, gouache. Now let's see it, mommy. Water paint. This one was a poem. We had to go the route of taking a poem and illustrating it. Now, I can't really remember what was my poem. It was something to do with like an owl of wisdom and so on. I can't remember. I didn't write it down. But as I told you, I'm into space. I'm a surreal, naive artist. So I like to bring dreamscapes to life. And as you can see, we brought some African elements into the picture, and I brought, of course, my own surreal style to it. I ended up making a boo-boo, messing up a bit in the process of painting. I have a habit of making the paint look like acrylic. Because I'm so used to acrylic from high school, I ended up making this painting look like acrylic. And ma'am said, it looks like you're forcing the paint to be acrylic. I'm like, whoa, I'm sorry, ma'am. She's like, just wash it down. Like, take a tissue and wash that paint down because it was too thick. For water paint, you need to be a bit more lucid, especially when it comes to applying the water paint and not overdoing the water, or else you're going to really damage your papers. You like this one? I tried my best. Water paint, it wasn't my best suit. I wasn't so good in it at the time, but I tried. Always try your best in everything. So we're moving on to acrylic. Now this is more of my comfort zone when it comes to painting with acrylic than also oil paint. This was the one assignment we did for illustration in 2018. We had to choose an advertisement that we can somehow duplicate, but yet make it original and change it up with at least 3 art styles. So at the time I had to exercise with 4 art styles. My professor at the time asked me, I need to go home and I need to explore abstract expressionism, surrealism, realism, and also Cubanism, but I didn't go into a Cubanistic style in this one. I decided to stick with realism. As you can see, it's actually more naturalism if I were to argue. There's a lot of people who will argue me dead between what is naturalism and what is realism, but anyhow, let's not go into that. But for now, as you can see, I use some abstract expressionistic kind of style coming out here, and the dripping. I didn't go full out Jackson Pollock, throw the paint on there and that's it. No, I needed you to see that there is a balance of having the coffee bean spill into the cup of coffee, having the surreal kind of realistic feel, and then having the water, well, the coffee eventually dripping onto the surface of where this girl is sitting, and it becoming a pond for koi fish. If you like koi fish, like, you're going to see it also in a few of my older works. I was really fond of koi fish at some time. And yes, some people might find this very weird. Well, that is what surrealism is. It's so weird, yet it's so surreal. It's so dreamscape. That's the word I'm looking for. Anyhow, let's move on. I'm excited for the next piece. Before we carry on to my drawing, I want to show you this is part of my com design work that I also had to do. So this is the Royal House of Maru. So it's a brand. We had to choose and formulate a complete brand. Have your logo of the maroon, like it's actually a liquor that we had to advertise. So please censor this ship, no children, okay? No underage drinking, okay? So as you can see, this is just my logo, but I was really not so fond of this one at the time when it came to the digital aspect. I was still getting into putting on drop shadows when I didn't know that you put it, like, I didn't know it was going to turn out this way. I was disgusted by it because the darker the shadow, the darker it's going to print and the more horrible it's going to look. For my own critique, I was terrible on myself. When it came to the back and front label of the liquor bottle we had to design. So I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but I just wanted to get you onto the gifs of this advertisement and this brand that I had to advertise and create. What I really want to show you is the illustrative side of it, where I had to create a storyboard. With the storyboard, I created 4 scenes to just write out my own story of advertising this liqueur, okay? And I had this character. Now, my one friend, she helped me decide on a character. It took a while. She's like, remember that guy from Overwatch? If any of you guys know Overwatch, any gamers out there? I went with Jesse. I decided to go more of illustrating him in my own kind of way, and then with a combination of mediums that shouldn't be. Some people will say do not mix acrylic and Copic markers. What I'm going to say on that part is, if you want to shine on your acrylic, add your Copics onto acrylic that's dried. Never work on top of Copics with acrylic. That's a bit stupid. I tried that, but all I'm going to say is always experiment. Lecturers and professors will tell you don't do this. I say go home, try it out, see what happens. Be curious, be like, why do they say we can't do this? Then do it and see what happens. And if you do something that's a bit different, where you do exactly what they say don't, but yet in a different manner, it could work out. Like I combined acrylic and Copic markers. Alright, as you can see, there's the liqueur bottle. Well, it looks very similar to Amarula. If you do know the alcohol liquor in South Africa. And then I went and I did the map of the hearts of Africa. And I had my little bottle, and I wanted him, Jesse, to go on a mission to find this liqueur, to find this bottle, because it's like apparently amazing. It's so amazing it changes your entire life. I'm not supporting alcohol, but this was just my assignment, guys. Anyhow, as you can see, here's the map, so I have no clue where this map, I just drew it out, and it leads to somewhere. So as you see, there's the storyboard. It's breaking apart with the staples, but sorry about that. For the Royal House of Meru, and we have Jesse in the pub, smoking a cigar. He's just chilling there and he recognizes the map. And for some odd reason, he's a treasure hunter, so he wants to now go and find wherever this hidden treasure is. And he goes through the forest, he sees elephants. Guys, this is no stereotype. South Africa is not like this. You're not going to walk outside. I'm not going to walk outside and see an elephant, but this is just my own storyboard play of this adventure he goes upon. And as you can see, well, all of this is hand done. It's a combination of Copic markers with a bit of acrylic and a bit of water paint every now and then. But I'm not going to tell you the whole story. All I want you to just see is that we also went into storyboard illustrating. And something just fun, you know. At the bottom of each one I tell you what happens in the frame and which frame number. But eventually he was almost killed by a boulder coming down, hurtling at him. Runs for his life and eventually finds himself into a hidden passageway. And right there in front of him, he sees the hidden treasure. And over there, he takes a sip and bam, he's back in the pub. How did that happen? I don't know. And the advertisement ends just with the bottle of liqueur. Why not take a sip? Anyhow, let's get off of alcohol. No underage drinking, guys. No underage drinking. Anyhow. Okay, now these are 2 activities that my lecturer said we should go and do and explore pastels. If you guys know, oil pastels is a bit dirty. I mean, charcoal, it's a very dirty medium to work with. Your hands get covered, everything gets covered with charcoal. Chalk, it's also just as dirty. And then oil pastel is a pain in the bum to get off of your fingers and your hands because you want to wash it and then the soap doesn't really help much. It's called oil pastel for a reason. But anyhow, this is something small I did just to duplicate an image in oil pastel. Layering with oil pastel is really difficult. I had to explore it. In primary school I did it not very well. I didn't understand layering. In university I decided, let me just try again, and this time focus on creating the tones and the colors that you need to, combining pastels, working on top of that. And I have a habit of making it too thick, but that's okay, that's my own style. So when it comes to this one, I worked late in the morning at like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was so tired, but eventually I was actually happy that it looked like the image. I don't have the image, but if you've seen it, I just try to work and practice with pastel, oil pastel. And then here is just a tomato, some detailed tomatoes, if you like tomatoes, whichever one you say. And as you can see, it's not a picture, it's just pastels, oil pastels. If you are still interested, and if I've captured your attention, awesome. Please remember to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for the next video for part 2 of my first year graphic design portfolio. I still have second year coming up and third year that I'm busy with. So I hope you do enjoy what you see, and if you do like this video, please hit that like button. And don't forget to leave a comment. Tell me what you think, tell me what your favorite works and what you find interesting about the way I work, and what works are more fascinating for you. Thank you so much. Have a great day, guys. Love you all.
Don't forget to subscribe.